How closely are BYU fans, administration, et cetera, following what's going on with the Big 12 right now?
Yeah, I would say extremely close. There's a lot of interest. Obviously, BYU has a huge fan base, national fan base, and football is king, and football is what is driving expansion and realignment. And so naturally, there is a huge segment of BYU fans that want to see BYU in a Power 5 conference. They're an independent right now, as many people know, and in football, and then most of their other sports are in the West Coast Conference. So, yeah, that's a lot of interest. I mean, it literally drives radio talk shows and newspaper clicks and website clicks and everything. It's basically huge news. If BYU were to join the Big 12, it would probably be one of the biggest news stories in BYU athletics history, to be honest with you.
Well, there are clear reasons why the Big 12 would be interested here. One of those laid out in that story I referenced from The Athletic was that, hey, TV consultants had said this is the one team you could add right now that would legitimately increase the value of your TV contract because of what you alluded to, the national fan base that is there. My question would be, how enticing is the Big 12 to BYU? You know, and I say that as somebody who really loves and respects the Big 12 and the 8 teams that are left remaining here, but, you know, with some of the uncertainty, how there's just been a lack of stability in the conference here lately, how enticing do you believe that it is to BYU?
I think it is still enticing, obviously not as enticing as it was in 2016 when they had the Big 12 invited schools to almost apply or to put forth PowerPoint presentations. And there was a no-brainer if BYU was invited then, they would have obviously jumped on it. Obviously, things have changed a little bit. Well, not a little bit, a lot. But that is kind of the $64,000 question: is how interested is BYU now in jumping ship? They just came off a phenomenally successful football season as an independent. And are trending upwards as far as the football program goes. But down the line, in the future, there are so many benefits to belonging to a Power 5 conference that I don't see how BYU can just simply ignore this. I think they'll do their due diligence. And if I were a betting man, I would say 75% chance that BYU does take the offer, and if one is extended, which by most accounts one is coming by most people's account, I think BYU would accept it.
Okay, well there you go. Jay Drew talking with me right now, who covers BYU for the Desert News. If you were in BYU shoes making the pitch to the Big 12, and I've seen some of this just from BYU fans out there, what their general pitch would be, what would be like the elevator pitch for why you think BYU makes sense in the Big 12?
Yeah, I think a lot of, as we're moving forward with more streaming, more subscription-based services, I think BYU fans have shown that around not even the country, but around the world, that they are be willing to pay to watch BYU football. I think everything's moving in that direction. BYU would have one of the largest stadiums, if not the largest football stadium in the Big 12 if they were invited. We've already talked about their huge fan base. It's kind of like a Notre Dame light. I'm not comparing BYU with Notre Dame, but what Notre Dame is to a lot of Catholics, BYU is to a lot of Mormons. And so there are 15 million Mormons or more worldwide. So they bring a large following. It's a pretty successful athletic department. They were just finished, I think, number 17 in the Directors' Cup, the Learfield Sports Directors' Cup, for overall athletic excellence. So those are kind of the pitches that they would bring. Obviously, the negative or the con, if you would, to inviting BYU is the Sunday play. They don't play on Sundays, which is could be a stumbling block for some folks. Some schedules, and especially in the Olympic sports, might have to be revamped a little bit. But overall, I would say that the pluses that BYU brings far outweigh the minuses.
Yeah, and on that front, is there any conversation about if it would be like a football only invite, or do you get the sense that all of this would be all in? They would just move all of their sports, non-revenue and everything, to the Big 12.
Yeah, I've heard that bandied about, the football only. That would solve a lot of problems, to be honest with you, as far as that was just mentioned, as far as the Sunday play and other things. However, I think BYU's other sports, for instance, men's basketball and some of the other sports that they excel in, I think they would want to come along. I think they would jump at an opportunity to up that level of competition, going from the WCC to the Big 12. I mean, you're talking about getting basketball games with Kansas State and Kansas and Iowa State and Baylor, the defending national champion. That would be huge. So I wouldn't be surprised if football only was talked about and being discussed, but I think BYU's would prefer to just jump all in and to go all in with all their sports.
I'm talking right now with Jay Drew, who covers BYU for the Desert News. This is something where I'll admit I'm out over my skis on this. I'm not totally familiar, and I've tried to do some reading up on this, and people have sent me some articles about this. But the reputation, you'll find people out there that caution against the reputation of BYU as having, you can find people saying ruined conferences, being difficult to work with. And the Big 12, has this scar tissue built up with Texas, obviously being somebody who was very difficult to work with here. How fair is that characterization of BYU and conferences that they've been in the past before obviously going independent in football? And just what would your response be as an accurate portrayal of BYU as a conference partner?
Yeah, that kind of cropped up. I think a lot of that is just sour grapes from the Mountain West teams when BYU left in 2010. The whole reason BYU left then was the television contract. They couldn't get any of their games televised on national TV, and so I've heard that as well. And then obviously they won't play on Sundays, which could be interpreted as being hard to work with and being not willing to budge on that. You'd have to ask the WCC. BYU's been in it now for 10 years. Ask Gonzaga, a national power in basketball, how has BYU been? Have they tried to take over the conference, as it were? I haven't seen anything from any WCC members saying as much. The other thing is I think people see that Texas had the Longhorn Network. BYU does have its own television network. It's called BYU TV. It's available for free in millions and millions of homes through DirecTV and other providers. So maybe people see that and think that BYU would try to use that as leverage of some sort. But I guess to answer your question, I've heard all those as well. I haven't really seen any kind of concrete particulars in saying, hey, BYU did this or BYU did that and made them hard to work with.